Not for nothing. Name of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes.
It's exciting, right?
Right? This is good.
Okay. No trick questions. So you're recording this and then you guys go back and edit through it and all that?
Yeah. So the way it works is I'll record it, and basically what we'll see is my screen, and then we'll go back later and we'll edit it to make you look bad.
Oh, good. Like to have 5 o'clock shadow.
Good. Yeah. We'll
Good.
bruise you up real nice.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's good.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you? You look great, Damien.
So
That's right.
this is interesting. Usually when I have somebody on a podcast, when we first start, we'll kind of explain how that person knows me.
Yeah.
How we met.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
boy,
yeah. So and I couldn't find my good headphones. I'm stuck with like the 1997 version of, which is a pain in the ass when you want to drink coffee.
Yeah, but you sound good. So got good sound,
Okay. So I mean, just for continuity, welcome to the Not for Nothing podcast. And if you could let my audience know how we know each other.
I am Damien's mother. My name is Josephine Papagni, kind of a mouthful, right? And I knew Damien before he even took a breath of air. He was born early, many weeks early, and it was on a Christmas Eve, and our whole family had gathered around to have our typical Christmas Eve dinner, and I went into labor. So I had to rush to the hospital, and everyone was complaining because, oh, we have the big dinner on the table. But it was certainly an exciting night. So Damien and I have had just, I think, a great time both growing up together, because I was pretty young, to have a child, I think, 20, 21. And I became very proficient in football. I knew a lot about football. I still do. I didn't lose it. And I feel like between Damien and his sister Blair, they're probably the two closest people in my entire life. And maybe my husband Shabazz. I'm pretty close with him. It's like that thing of not having to say much, but having the other person kind of get it, even when we don't agree. And that's what's kind of nice about it. Is that an acceptable introduction?
I mean, you're my mom. I'm not going to tell you no. But no,
Smart kid.
That's great. I wanted to give a little bit of background to why I asked you on this podcast. So I guess I'll just go ahead with just taking a note. I'll go ahead with that. So in today's day and age of the internet, you can find information on anything. You can, so it's much easier than it once was to look up information on diet and exercise and the proper way to raise a child, or the proper way to take care of your dog, or there's a million things that we can look up now that we weren't always able to. And you and I have had some conversations recently, and I've kind of been doing a deep dive sort of into health. I'm 48 now. I'm not getting any younger.
Yep.
So I wanted to, and me and Sabrina, my wife, we're looking at trying to have a child. So obviously it's important to me. I live a little bit longer than maybe I might have.
Yeah.
So kind of did a deep dive on health and diet and things of that nature. And what I realized, and I've kind of always known, um, but really what crystallized for me is you've been eating right and making good decisions as it relates to diet and exercise and what you will and will not put into your body for your entire life. And it's really easy for me now to throw on, Joe Rogan's podcast or,
Mhm.
look up information on a particular topic and just have it all right there. And it made me realize that you're fascinating because of you've been doing this stuff for 50 plus years. And I just kind of wanted to get, because this isn't something we had really ever gone in depth about. I personally had always just accepted that, like, well, my mom ate well growing up, and I didn't even realize it till I got a little bit older and people were shocked or, I get that look when it comes to preparing a meal or what I will or will not pick up from a gas station to eat. And just the list just goes on of habits that I had infused into me very, very early by you. And they all make sense now. And you've been proven correct on multiple topics in multiple arenas. And I was just curious, uh, how did you how did you arrive at these decisions in 1965? And how'd you know you were right? Because you were, hindsight 2020, easy, but how did you know at the time?
I think that part of who I am is that I always had a sense, and by that I mean, even as a kid, I didn't like meat, and in an Italian family, what's wrong with you? You don't like salami, pepperoni, meatballs, and I just didn't want it, so, and that was as a young kid. I would get in trouble, like you'd have to eat that kind of thing, but they gave up. I give them that. They kind of, so there was that piece. So I think I had like this innate sense of what my body wanted and didn't want. And I was fortunate to be part of this generation where you really did question everything. And I was surrounded by people who were really smart, and we would point each other in different directions. Like I had one friend who was absolutely bonkers about fluoride or anti-fluoride. And at first I was like, well, let me do some research. And in those days, you had to go into a library. And after some hours of just researching that, I was like, I don't think I want my kids to have that. Fluoride was a waste product from some other chemical processing. And somebody said, hey, this prevents XYZ. And I thought to myself, I would rather not have my kids have something in their body that it's questionable. So sugar, um, there were some other people that like I was part of this health food co-op at the time. And Evelyn, Emiliano and Tony's mother, kind of got me involved in that. And in that arena, I learned that, like, particularly kids, if you give them a lot of sugar, their body does not absorb the nutrients that they're being fed, even. So that right away, bing, that went in my head like, well, I don't want my kids to have sugar. You poor guys were like the guinea pigs. Even to this day, we eat complete scratch meals every single day. It's not a big deal because I'm so used to it. And I walk with this woman, she's 74 years old, and she's pretty knowledgeable about stuff, but she's never done certain things. Like we were talking the other day, she goes, I don't know how to make, I always tell her, oh, I made a big pot of greens up. She goes, I don't know how to make them. I go, what do you mean you don't know how to make them? I said, you just chop them up and you throw them in. So we had this talk. No, I don't know how to make it. So I did a video for her. I set it up at home and I had to run around and put it on and run around and come back. And she now, and this is a while ago, because she now has greens like 3, 4 times a week. She's like, wow. Because I went and I said, you got to wash the leaves. Don't shake the water off because you want to chop it up and let that water, so when you steam it, you don't put a lot of water in it. You have the wood, so I think I was like that, in the right place at the right time. I had a really open mind to it. I wanted my kids to have the best chance for I believe health is the foundation for everything. Your intelligence and your ability to learn things and accomplish things. I think the foundation has to be, you have to have a healthy body. So, and I think you are a great example of that. I mean, look at what you do, and your strength and your abilities are enhanced by being a healthy person, I believe.
I
And I'm
agree
your
with you.
mom. Yeah.
It's a little biased.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
seriously, like what you do with jujitsu, with the training that you offer to other people, all of that takes the base. You got to have that foundation of being a strong, healthy person with a good focus. That's
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I tell the story all the time. I bet I was 12 or 13 years old before I got my own can of soda. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like we
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have soda in the house.
Nope.
Um, it's funny that you bring it up because we cook fresh meals with fresh ingredients every night.
Yep.
We eat out once a month, once every
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah. That's how we are. Like the few times we've gone out with friends and we're say like at a Thai restaurant, we drive home and Shabazz is like, man, yours is so much better, So it's like, it's just funny, Indian food, I've gotten pretty good. I'm starting to really get an understanding about the spices. Today, for the first time, I made homemade paneer. So
Ah,
it's
and
it was on my bucket list. And I said, you know what? This can't be that hard. And I looked it up. It's like four ingredients: milk, lemon juice, and white vinegar, and a little bit of water. I mean,
and
how bad can I mess that up?
for those who don't know, that's cheese, correct?
Right. And it's used most frequently in Indian dishes.
Yep.
So,
Matar paneer is
right.
okay.
Palak paneer is the spinach vegetable thing where they throw the cheese into it. I happen to like it a lot. I was getting it at our health food store, where every time they get it in, it just disappears within a day. So I
Yeah,
said, you know what?
you're not the only one that likes it.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah. So and that's the other thing, is the challenge of continuing to try new things. Like I don't know anyone in my life who's made homemade cheese, basically. I don't know anyone in my life who's made sourdough bread. I mean, I know it exists, right? I know
Yeah,
people
yeah.
do it, but I'm always curious. I always want to try to do better. So that's how the paneer happened today. I was very proud of that. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, it's sitting tied up in cheesecloth being pressed
Yep,
right
yep, yep.
now.
Let me know. That's interesting. I just finished. I still have to do kind of a resolution shot, but I'm putting together a video for Holly
Oh,
on
nice. Yeah.
putting inclusions in sourdough. Yeah, yep.
Oh,
So,
huh.
and that came out great. We did garlic cheddar and jalapeno. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Are you still making
So
the dough?
still what?
You still making the sourdough? You slowed up or?
I mean, I've slowed up a little bit just because it's winter, and the starter, and then subsequently the proofing of it doesn't like this weather. And it's funny because the temperature in the house is pretty good, but it's the humidity. Like there's the finest little things that impact.
Ah.
So making sourdough is really humbling. This summer I was like, I got it. I got it. Every loaf is perfect. I know what I'm doing. Shit. And then I
Yeah.
did like four in a
Yep.
row last month, and I'm sure you know there's times where with stuff where you're just like, you know what? I'm just leaving it alone. I'm just gonna let it sit. And it was kind of good. It was a genesis for me trying a couple of different things.
Right.
And yeah, the loaf I made a couple days ago, forget about it. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess one of my next questions is, when did it start for you where you were like, God damn it, I'm right? Like it must be crazy for you now. And I'm assuming it started kind of with the introduction of the internet. How many times has somebody come to you with new information and you've been like,
You know what's
yeah,
funny,
bro,
Damon?
since 1982. Like,
I was talking to my friend who I walk with, so we talk as we walk. And I just told her this. I said, you know what? I feel like all my life I've been just a little out of step. And I feel like I've had to defend, if I chose to, defend myself my entire life, And I think, and she said, well, that's because you're smarter than those other, well, she used the, assholes or something like that. But I think I always kind of knew, like, I know this, I got this, but I didn't have the support, and I certainly didn't have the evidence that, I mean, like the stupid thing with the fluoride, I'm in the library writing all these notes, and I don't know if you knew this, they did a test, I think in the 60s, with Newburgh, the public school, and Kingston, the public school, two cities, in the Hudson Valley. And just that, and that is not a huge test case to where you look at where fluoride is now. That is
yeah,
not a huge test case to, they gave it to those kids for I don't know how many years. They said, oh, they don't have that many cavities. You and Blair were brought up pretty much the same. She has never had one cavity in her whole life. You've had a bunch.
wow.
I've had a bunch. So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like some of that is a little, like when I go to my dentist, he always goes, okay, now make sure you're using your fluoride toothpaste. And I choose not to challenge that one. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not telling him. I mean, he's got his belief system. I can't, I can't change it. He really believes in it. So I've never used fluoride. So what's the deal?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
remember being the weird kid in school, and at the time didn't think anything of it. I guess as a child, I knew you were a little, well, just because,
left of
um,
center.
yeah, just because of the sugar or lack thereof, the fact that we always ate healthier than anybody else that I knew. I always tell people, like, it's funny because I was mad as a kid.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
didn't for those of you out there who don't know what fucking carob is,
It's not good.
it's the cruelest thing that looks like chocolate,
Yeah.
feels like chocolate, has the texture of chocolate, and it's horrible.
It's like a mix between chalk and cardboard. You
Right,
know,
right.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
that was,
basically,
no, it was better. It was a good attempt, but even I regret making you poor kids have like a chocolate bunny. I mean a carob.
uh,
But I knew also you were at your grandparents, you were going up to the Shirneys, you were getting plenty of chocolate and sugar. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So talk to that a little bit because I will hopefully shortly be a parent here. I don't remember you being overly crazy about the whole thing, particularly like, like you said, we go to grandma's or we go to the
Yeah,
neighbors or we go to I don't ever remember going to a birthday party with instructions
yeah,
not to
no.
have, so you
I think
just
there's a
kind of,
balance. Don't you think there's a balance in life in general? And I think particularly with having a child or children to kind of, I think our job up until a certain point is we guide our children along, and then we have to know, like, they got the basics. And you and Blair are both great examples of having the basics. I mean, her thing, she calls me the other night. She goes, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna watch basketball. They got whatever going on." And she said, "I have to stop and get some carrots because I want to have a bunch of carrots peeled up to eat while I'm watching the thing." I'm like, you are definitely your mother's daughter, so
Yeah.
it's something like you give your kid the basics from a really honest, pure perspective. And beyond that, I mean, so what? You go to grandma's and she gives you whatever, or you go up to the Shirley's and it's fine, because it's not like the foundation of your day-to-day life. It's important. I mean, all those relationships are really important. And I think that as a parent, I grew a lot too. As you guys grew, I grew too, who I was. And I think we grew up in a wonderful place, living in Monroe up on Rockledge. And I mean, I feel like, man, we couldn't have asked for a nicer setting with neighbors and, you know, the lake right over the hill and just all the different things we had there. It was a real community that, I don't see that looking around now, not really. I mean, I have neighbors, I know my one neighbor, if I walked over to his house and asked him for help, he would help. But there's not that, I mean, that was like open doors for,
Yeah,
any kid who
literally.
wanted to come in, literally, So I think you got to give your kid the best of what you know. And you got to know they're going to, take that and make it something, I believe, better. I mean, look at the community that you have where you are, of people that I know you love. I know that. I hear you talk about these people to me now for all these years. And is that like your chosen family? Is that I
Yeah,
think that's what,
family you choose.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, I thought about this when I was driving today about who are people, famous people. I mean, I have some not so famous people that I admire, but who are like, and I came up with two, and I know yours are gonna be very different than mine, famous people that you admire. But, and these are both equal, I would say. One would be Muhammad Ali. And my sense of him is he gave up everything to stand up for what he believed. Doesn't matter whether you believe in him protesting the Vietnam War or not. It's not,
Sure.
he put his money where his mouth was. He gave up everything. They stripped him of his title, and you can relate to that, to lose a belt, to lose a title. They stripped him of that. He missed opportunities
Oh, it's
for
the
back
prime of
at the
his
prime of his, yes,
fighting career. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So for me, I always thought of him as a real, a kind of a hero, like a folk hero, almost like, man, like you're not just out there, pounding your chest saying that, I'm the greatest. You're really doing what you say. So I thought that was good. Another one that came to me, I've really always liked her, and I know there's so much controversy about her, is Jane Fonda. Because I know she came from extreme privilege, but she also put herself out there and put herself out there for criticism and put herself out there to speak to a lot of the issues, women's issues, and that kind of stuff. So those are two people that came to mind when I was driving that have had in some way an impact on how I view qualities in a person. Like, do what you say, stand up for what you believe.
It's really interesting you bring that up. Me and Sabrina were just talking about that. And Ali is a great example of, I often feel sometimes people, both just normal people like us, but, famous people in general, don't get the credit for something because it's viewed through the prism of time. it's really easy for us now, to look back and be like, well, yeah, of course Ali was right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that wasn't necessarily the case at the time. So not only was, did he spend, 3 or 5 years of his absolute prime.
Yeah.
It's what makes his fights when he came back that much more impressive,
Yeah.
because now what he had to do to win a fight was here,
Yep.
as opposed to prior to that, it was the physicality of it, it was his age, it was his fitness. But yeah, my point is, it's always interesting to view people's opinion of a situation after the fact. Because once all the information is in, it's very easy. Again, Ali, great example, to be like, well, yeah, of course, the Vietnam War was dog shit and a terrible idea. And look at the pressing of basically the poor into fighting the war. That hasn't changed.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You and I have talked before. I have a lot of issues with Ali, but that is not one of them. And
Right.
and to your point, he gets a ton of respect for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that changed his entire life. Not for nothing, you could make the argument that how he ultimately ended up with Parkinson's, it was Parkinson's brought on and exacerbated by trauma.
Yeah.
You could make the argument that that was a result of how he had to fight when he had to fight at a time when he was no longer in his prime. And if he had been able to fight through his prime, might he have retired?
Right. And
You
would he have
know,
he wouldn't have taken those hits to the head over and,
right.
yeah,
Yep.
I agree. I agree with you there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, what do you
Yeah.
think of Jane Fonda then? Ugh.
I embarrassingly enough would say I don't have enough information. Obviously, I recognize the name. Not sure the context in which you're talking about her in, though. If you wanted to
Well, in
expound a
many in
little.
many contexts, she has a good body of music of movies. So they're worth looking at. And some of them are comedies and they're fine, but I mean, they're not, to me, I mean, she has some really interesting movies that she's taken on roles that, um, again, controversial. She did the one about the Vietnam War coming home. It's definitely worth trying to find. So I don't know if you can even find some of these now, but that and her position at 80 years old to be picketing in Washington about, well, she was picketing against Biden's policies, you know, and here she is, a Democrat basically, but she didn't care. That's what I like about her. It's like, I don't care, what party I'm affiliated with. If you're not acting right, I'm going to call you out on it. So she, at 80 years old, was out there dead of winter in Washington, D.C. is not, it's no fun.
Yeah.
So, so I admire that stuff. Like she's willing to kind of let her image be distorted by what people, wacky Jane out there walking the picket line. So, I have a woman who you never heard of her because she was from the Hudson Valley. Her name is Fannie Reese. And when she was in her 80s, you remember Breakneck Mountain in Cold Spring?
Hmm.
Beautiful Storm King Mountain, that whole thing.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The electric company wanted to blast the top of Storm King Mountain off, and they wanted to pump the water from the Hudson River up to the top and do hydroelectric power. It was a terrible idea. I mean, you're talking like this historic, beautiful, preserved space and a river that we've been for years trying to restore. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah.
so they wanted to do that, and she, as a little old lady, laid in front of the bulldozers. And it never happened. I mean, she
No
really,
shit.
yeah, she did. As a matter of fact, there's a park now. Now, that was back in the 60s, 70s, 70s. And there's a park up in Poughkeepsie that's named after her and stuff. I mean, she became a folk hero, but at the time, crazy old lady. So maybe there's a theme here.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes down to doing what you think is right, and then hopefully history proves you correct.
Well, that's also another thing. Yeah.
I went through it a bit when the COVID vaccine first came out. I didn't take it funny, I didn't take it in the beginning because I was just, I'm fairly healthy. I even considered that there were other people who might need it that were not, at the level of health that I was. And it's easy to look back now and, when we realize that, yes, it's a booster and it certainly makes it so that you're not quite as sick, but it doesn't necessarily do exactly what a traditional vaccine does. It doesn't completely prevent you from getting it or spreading it. So my point is, I get a little more leeway now for not taking it. At the
Right.
time,
Right.
at the time, I did not.
Yeah.
And
No, I remember that very well.
yeah,
And I was concerned for you for many reasons. I was concerned, like, is he really going to get really, really sick? Because, Shabazz's daughter died, Alicia. So there was that piece of it. And then I was concerned from the blowback between, I would say Sabrina's family was pretty unhappy with that decision. I don't know how that affected like any kind of work you were trying to do. I hope it didn't. But
at the
like,
time, at the time, I was bartending, and to my boss's credit, I was bartending at a gay nightclub,
oh, okay. Yeah,
which is fairly, I think it's safe to say, fairly liberal. And my boss, however, my boss did not make it mandatory. My boss did not fire me. My boss did say, however, like, hey, maybe you could just fucking, you don't
not
have to
say
tell everyone.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and which I understood. That was fine. But yeah, I didn't go to Christmas or Thanksgiving for 2 years
Because of that.
with my wife's family. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the first one I was pretty accepting of. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but Sabrina's mother has edging into later stage MS.
Right.
Um, not all of her family is the pinnacle of health. So I did understand that first Christmas, certainly. I was a little bit less understanding for the second because we had more information at that point. But the other side of that coin is like it's your house, so
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I agree.
uh,
I agree with you.
um and
Well, again, some of those things that if I had it to do again, I probably would have gotten the initial and then be done with it. But I just recently got a booster because we were told, oh, you're over this age, you better get one. And now I have to have a biopsy done on my lymph nodes. They think that that got impacted by this booster, which good news, bad news. I mean, no one wants to have that done, but the good news is it's probably nothing then. It probably just made them enlarge or however they put it. But I'm annoyed. I'm like, no one told me that that would be an impact potential. Because as soon as I went for a checkup and they found these enlarged lymph nodes, and then the doctor came in, they said, just wait here. And he came in and he goes, okay, I really think we should do a biopsy. I said, all right, if that's, and just as he's walking out of the room, he turns around, he goes, did you have a COVID vaccine recently? I said, yeah, like 5 days ago. He goes, forget it. Let's wait 3 months and then do it.
no
So,
shit.
I mean, so obviously they know something, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and obviously they have information as it relates to some type of potential impact.
they should tell you. They
Yes.
should tell you that, and maybe it
Yeah.
means nothing. Maybe it's like, oh yeah, you'll get, a false reading for a certain amount of time and then you'll be fine, that kind of thing. But they should at least tell you. So, yeah, you learn a lot. You just keep living. You really learn a lot. And having children, you should learn a lot from them. We don't have all the answers. You're going to see. I can't wait to see you as a parent. I enjoy watching Blair as a parent. I think she's really phenomenal. I don't agree with every single thing, but it's I'm sure there's not everything I've done that people agree with.
I don't know, man. I mean, at least from my perspective, I kind of you did a hell of a job. Like at almost 50 years old, almost on a daily basis, I think about how you brought us up, some of the decisions that you made. And again, it was kind of the genesis for this whole conversation. I had a hard time getting my head around how you could just keep being freaking right. Uh, yeah, it's a tough road to hoe, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Oh, that's
I
funny. All right.
never have viewed that like that, by the way, of being right. I just always knew that I was different and I had to kind of stick with what I knew, period. That's the best I could do is stick with what I know. So that's how that I never ever until you started this conversation about it, thought of myself as being right.
Really?
Nope. I mean, I'm glad that I value exercise. I value, good eating. I'm glad because I think it pays off now at 70 years old. I think that I've entered this stage of my life with pretty good health here. So that's really what we have going for us. And basically the reality is we're all aging, we're all going to die. I mean, all that, not to be morose, but I feel like Shabazz and I have really approached it almost methodically. We have our house set up that basically you could push, a hospital bed anywhere in our house if you had somebody who you were taking
Mm.
care of at home. Our
And
shower,
might at some point.
yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
have like an extra bedroom that's kind of private with its own bath for if you had to have a caregiver. So we really designed this in such a way that um you never know. Hey, oh, there you are.
Hey,
Yeah, okay.
hey, oh, forget about it.
Okay, let me get the video on. There we go. All right.
Very nice.
So where do we leave off? What are
This,
you
this,
looking
this,
at? Want me to see your man bun?
no, no. Oh, you like that?
I do. Yeah.
That's not. Oh no, I think it's funny. Two Papagnis trying to figure out
What were
where
we
we left
saying?
off. Yeah,
Yeah.
what were we saying? Shit, I should have made a note. God damn it.
Okay. See, this is the thing, like you got to learn to relax with that because I'm getting good at this. It's like, oh, what was I saying? I'm saying, you know what? It'll come back. And sometimes it
Well,
does. Usually it does. I worry about that,
about
because my mother had Alzheimer's. So I do worry about it because you have a 50% chance of having it if you have a parent who has it. And
really.
yeah, but on my to my credit, in the pros and cons, I believe Aunt Teresa has it. And probably
Ma,
even
you can't say that. She's gonna see this. What are you doing?
no, she's like a Luddite. I mean, they don't have emails, computers, they have nothing. I'm telling you, they so even if she sees it, it may prove my point that,
She'll forget about it.
no, forget about it. I think I'm okay. I don't know. And again, as you begin to age, there's that piece of you that is like, is this normal? Because you forget stuff. Or is this the big disease? So yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
I say I don't worry about it, but I'm cognizant of there's that possibility. But, you
I
know,
I would make the argument, and I too think about because that's potentially if you made a list of things that I would fear growing old,
Yeah, that's on there.
I mean, not only is it on there, it's probably number one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. That's, yeah. I think I have this, and it's probably not at all based on any reality, but I always have this sense that, well, God forbid, but if I got cancer, I'd fight it, cut it out, do whatever, chemo, whatever, and I'd live through it. I don't know where I got that sense of, but that Alzheimer's, man, like you just, those brain diseases that just, so yeah, so that forgetting kind of stuff like that, really normal. It really is.
Oh, yeah. I would make the argument, kind of, a little callback to what we've been discussing, that your diet, your exercise regimen is, I mean, I joke with Sabrina constantly, you're going to live to be 100 years old. And, but I really do believe that, so often you get people that don't make lifestyle choices or changes, or in a positive direction till, I don't want to say it's too late. It's never too late. But, if you're 50 years old and now you start worrying about your diet and what you put into your body, you're fighting an uphill battle. And, again, you've been doing it for 70 years.
Yeah.
So I do think that you're going to be you're going to outlive me. So,
Wow. Let's
yeah.
let's hope that doesn't come about,
Well, and all kidding around aside, the other side of that coin is, because of you, I have lived an incredibly healthy lifestyle. And again, it not in a way that, like, well, the last 10 years I kind of been taking care of myself. No, I've had my default response to food is different than most people.
Yep.
I don't want shitty boxed garbage. I don't even want to eat out. Not even saying that that's terrible food, but and this is kind of what I was also talking about. What we've come to realize, and I bet we've known it for a while, but what's being put out there in the zeitgeist is how bad ultra processed food is for you.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, guess what? We haven't been eating that really our entire life.
Yep. And even like the people who, and this I knew inherently, I don't know beyond that, the people who are vegan or any of that, like all of that replacement stuff, the fake meat stuff, that's terrible for you. It's got super duper sodium, it's got high fats, maybe not animal fats, but it's got high fats. It's just super processed and made to taste and look like meat. Like, forget it. And then the vegans, if you go out and buy vegan food, like our Shabaz's son, his wife is vegan, and if I know they're coming, I'll pick her up some stuff and he'll tell me what she likes. And it's all like vegan food is high sugar, high fat. But, because you have to again think, how are you going to replace flavors and stuff and
Well,
textures?
and how are you going to make your body think it's full?
Right.
There's a reason that we've devolved into such an unhealthy society, and it's because food companies, fast food companies, additive companies play on our evolution. And they play on the fact that, like, well, if we load this guy up with enough fat and sugar, they're going to find this particular meal satiating and good, even
Yep.
though it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the real, like, final kicker is that fast food, from my understanding of what I hear and what I see, like, on the internet, is super expensive. If you go and buy, like, I don't know, a Whopper and fries and a drink, I think it's like 10, $12. I think. Something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, so now my wife and I, and then what about our kids? I mean, you're like shelling out 30 something bucks just to do a family. It's to me, it's incredible. So I mean, it used to be in the old day, it was definitely cheap food. It was cheap protein and fat that made you feel full. It's sort of like the fast food industry got the last laugh, really, because they got you hooked. And now it's like, now we're going to charge you. We're going to charge you through the nose.
Probably eat fast food a couple times a year. I'm not even exaggerating.
Yep.
And usually it'll be because we're on the road
Yep.
and we didn't plan terrifically as far as bringing something. And God damn it, McDonald's is delicious. I don't eat it much, but if I'm in a situation where that's what's available, I'm almost happy
Yeah.
because
Yeah. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I get a pass today. I
yeah,
can, yeah.
yep,
Yeah, if we're
yep.
on the
But
road, I'll eat French fries. I'll stop, and get,
yeah,
so yeah,
um,
I get it.
but
Yeah,
to your point, I remember when McDonald's was the dollar menu, and you could literally
right.
spend $5 and feel gluttonously, disgustingly full.
Stuffed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
not proud of it, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And to your point, not anymore.
No,
Yeah. Do
I
you
don't know how
know?
families do it now, you know, like regular people
No.
like us, we're on fixed incomes or we have, only so much disposable income to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because you and I haven't really talked about it much. I bet that you and Shabazz do it very, very similar to Sabrina and I, in that we buy um, ingredients and then make a fair amount of food for the week from these fresh ingredients. And that's what we eat,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's funny growing up the way I did. I don't think there's anything odd about stopping at, it's high V out here, Grand Union, whatever, stopping and getting fresh vegetables almost every night
yeah, yeah, that's
to
pretty much what,
supplement with, whatever, pasta or, for us, meat. But yeah, that's not an odd way of doing it.
yeah,
And I get comments from people all the time that, most people will go to Sam's Club or to Hy-Vee or whatever and spend a ton of money on prepared ingredients with a list of ingredients this freaking long.
yep.
And, when you check ingredients in a store, I'm sure you do, is one of the things that you're looking for just the least amount?
Yeah, I mean, if I see something like you're saying, it's like just ridiculous. Like, I don't even read that. I go, nah, I don't want to be bothered. Like, if you need all these additives, and even if they're herbs and spices, there's something ain't right here. That's how I feel. So I have to look, believe it or not, for everything. I have to check for garlic because I'm allergic to garlic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm forced to really read everything, but I buy so few things that, even to the point of, I told Shabazz the other day, I said, oh, I didn't pick up ketchup because this is good. I didn't have my glasses with me, so I couldn't read the label on the ketchup thing. And I said, I wasn't sure if they have garlic in it or not. And he goes, oh, don't bother, we'll make our own. And we do. So we end up doing stuff like that because, it's fine. You got to be a little flexible, like things might not be exactly
Yeah.
like the traditional ketchup that we know and love. But on the other hand, it can be quite tasty. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The ingredients list is kind of what got me into sourdough.
Oh, I bet. Because breads
Because,
like to throw a lot of crap in there.
oh my God. And, I had seen something on the internet about just, the average ingredients in your average loaf of bread. And I kind of, come on. And the next time I was at the store, and it's almost more nefarious with the healthy stuff. It's still an ingredients list this long. Um, the health food industry has become a massive, uh, we started looking the other day at granola,
Oh my
something.
God. Yeah, you got to make your own. I mean, that is ridiculous to buy. It is, it's sugar and it's oils. And it's just like by the time you
Seed
get
oil.
basic oats, nuts, and raisins, that's way at the bottom of it. It's unbelievable. It's terrible. Yeah. So I make granola, I make it I go through spurts. Like right now I'm into what you call refrigerator oats, and you take, regular oats, and you make up a few jars, like few pint jars, and you put in oats, and then you put in whatever you have, nuts, fruit, whatever. And then I use almond milk only because, if I can avoid, I still use milk in my coffee and stuff. But I just figure I'll use almond milk and sit it in the refrigerator at least overnight. It's really good. It's like almost like having a jar of pudding, in a sense, only if you imagine oats are thick.
So what's hilarious about this is Sabrina does the exact same thing.
Oh my God.
Not exact.
You married your mother.
Yeah.
That's
We
great.
do yogurt instead of the milk.
Yeah, I've done
Yep.
yogurt in it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a little bit of honey. And we
Yep.
kind of layer them all. So we call them breakfast parfaits.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And sometimes if I'm really getting fancy, I'll throw in just a drop of vanilla and a little bit of cinnamon. That's like, I gotta go fancy for that. But it's nice having that though, because if I'm out, all right, I go out for like a 2-hour walk. Then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go to the post office, gotta go to the bank, I gotta go to this, stop at the health food store. I'm not home until 12:30 or so. So when I walk in, that's the first thing I'm going to eat that day. And it's like, I
And it's
want it to be something
already,
good. And it's all ready. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, some people
Um,
don't like it cold, but I like it cold.
no, yeah, it's funny. Yes, I love them. I think one of the things, so it's interesting. There's two things from my childhood that I like in a way that not everybody else does. One of them is honey.
Oh, okay.
And I do think for all of the regulation of poor ingredients and sugar in particular, I don't ever remember as a kid having any real limit on the amount of honey that you let us put in
Yeah.
cereal, for instance. To this day, I still buy shredded wheat
Do you really?
or
Wow.
yeah, shredded wheat, raisin bran. Yeah, and I just drowned it in honey. And the other thing, it's funny because this goes back to all of the things they told us were terrible for us. And you know what? Turns out, um, butter.
Yeah. Right. Butter's fine. Yeah.
I have always loved butter.
Yep. See, this is where that's that inherent thing though. Me with butter, I always knew. Like, if you think you're using too much butter, cut down. You don't go to margarine, which is a complete, whatever it is. Yeah. But see, no one had to tell me that, is what I'm saying. I knew that. I was like, no, this is not acceptable as any kind of ingredient. It doesn't replace butter. I don't know where they ever got that going. So, yeah, and that's, yeah, butter. Now, I mean, Shabazz would eat butter till the cows come home. So I try to limit his butter, and I have a video of him almost crying. He's going, "What's the matter with butter? Why can't I have more butter?" I said, "You don't need any more." Oh, it's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and this is a great example of the difference in how you raised us and the average person. Most people my age or even a little bit younger, they didn't really grow up with butter because that was the period of time where, and things come in and out of vogue as far as health goes. Eggs are good for you, they're not good for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but there was a massive swath of time where butter was the absolute enemy.
yeah,
Butter was
that's
going to
right.
kill you. and to your point, it became about margarine. I don't even know what that is, you know.
I don't either. I know, I don't want to know it. Yeah, that's the point. It's like, what is it? And did it really replace the flavor? Because butter gives fantastic flavor in things. Not a ton. You don't need a ton of it. It's the thing.
I'll
So
agree to disagree.
yeah, you need a
But
ton. You and Chad. Oh my God. Yeah.
oh yeah,
You say you can't have too much butter. Yeah. I'm like,
no,
but I
I,
feel like that though. If you're concerned about butter, just use a little less. You don't have to not use it. I feel the same way in a sense about salt. Like I use very, very, very little salt, but I wouldn't say, oh, never ever use salt, So unless you have a condition that makes using salt really dangerous for your health, basically your body should throw off any excess, sodium. So, um, now, on the other hand, I used to watch Shabazz's mother. She'd sit down to a meal, but she never tasted it. She would pick up the salt shaker and she'd shake, 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 shake. And she'd look at me and she'd go, it takes an opinionated person to salt their food before they taste it. She had some really good sayings. I'm like, I know. I mean, why, she lived to be 93. So there you go. So much for
okay.
salt.
So yes, so much for salt, so much for butter. Um, so if you start looking at concentrations throughout the world of people that live to be 100 years old or better, obviously most of us have heard of like the Okinawa diet. And that one makes sense as far as, if you're looking at it from a traditional health standpoint, it's low in fat and there's almost no seed oil and it's high in vegetables. But then you start looking at places in Italy and France where there's these pockets of people that literally live to be 100 years old, but they're eating butter like it's their job. Or, it's very, very high in carbs. And what the research is starting to show, and again, this is somewhere that you just knew, movement is more important. So the particular pockets in Italy, they're in the mountains.
Yep.
It's a 30-degree incline to get anywhere. So these people aren't necessarily eating the healthiest. And it's funny because in all reality, they are. If you were to break down their food, there's 7 ingredients in their entire meal. It's none of this processed bullshit, but they're not cutting out butter. They're not cutting out carbs. They're not cutting out meat. They're not cutting out fat. What they are doing is to get to church or to get to the market or to get to their family's house.
Yep.
They're walking. So how much do you walk and how far?
I walk 6 days a week and I walk for at least 2 hours and it's about 7 miles. Now today took 2.5 hours because it was so icy. So we had to kind of slow up around some really icy stuff. Days that I can't walk, the one day off is Sunday because that was requested by Shabazz. Because he goes, oh, you don't have to run out early on Sunday to go. And he's right, So I say, yeah, I can. And like any good exercise program, you're supposed to rest in between. So,
Yeah.
but if I go a few days in a row without walking, my body feels achy. I feel sore. So I think there's something to it. And the other part is when we're walking, we're talking the whole time, blah, 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 about all kinds of stuff. We talk recipes, we talk kids, you know. So, like she'll ask me, hey, how is Damien after he had his wrist done? How's it? So it's just an interest. So that talking also, I think, is really good too. That's like a little bit of a cardio workout almost. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that, oh, and the other thing I do when I first get up, I do 55 sit-ups. Now, why do I do 55? Because I was born in 1955. So I want to take some number that's always personal to me. And so
Okay.
I do sit-ups, and then I have a Pilates reformer. So I do about 15 to 20 minutes on the reformer. Easy, easy stuff. Set the springs however feel best, And that's my program. It's pretty easy.
What's your blood work look like?
My blood pressure is it hovers. It goes between 125 over 80 down to 113 over 70. So it's pretty healthy. I think that's pretty good.
So it's
Um,
basically perfect.
yeah, my cholesterol, and I don't remember the number. I'm not covering any, my cholesterol is considered high, but my doctor, she said I could put you on a like it's like 254, which seems high, I think. But the point being, like, I think I am just prone to that genetically. And, you know, everything else, my heart rate, my hemoglobin, my everything else is right on the mark. My blood sugar is perfect. I think I was a 5.5, I think. So all those numbers are in line. So otherwise, she would push me to take the beta blockers, I think they're called, the stuff that they take for
Yep.
anti-cholesterol. Now, this is why I love my doctor, because I said, I would rather avoid that. I trust you a lot. If you feel like I really need it, I said, but the research that I do, and I might be crazy, so is that beta blockers are really great at scrubbing your body of cholesterol, but your brain is made of cholesterol. So I'm afraid what's telling that beta blocker, don't go upstairs, just, and she said to me, she goes, I think you have a point. And I think let's wait. I said, now maybe I sound crazy. She goes, no, it doesn't really sound crazy, but no one else talks about it. So it goes back to fluoride days. Like I've always been outside of normal. Now, if it turns out when I go see her, I think in another month or two, that I'm really high, I'll do what I have to. I want to live.
Amazing you brought this up. So many of the people that live to be 100 or so, when they do die, their average cholesterol is about 260.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in good company, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Wonder
It's
why she wasn't that concerned. She said, a lot of that is genetic. Like you're going to always run. What's yours?
high.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And it's one of the so as you know, about a year or so ago, I quit drinking. And prior to quitting drinking, I had my blood work, and it was an absolute disaster
Yeah.
all the way through. And my doctor was very much about, all right, so these are the 4 medications we're putting you on. And I said, no, you're not. I said, no, you're not. What we're going to do is we're going to wait 8 months, and I'm going to reap the benefits from not consuming alcohol anymore. And I'll come back and we'll do my blood work again, and we'll see what that looks like. And it's almost as if you had taken a chart and we're like, okay, well, what's the opposite look like
Yeah.
on everything?
Boy, that's
And yeah, so it's funny that this is getting brought up, because that's one of the things that's always blown me away. And I'm talking about medication now. I mean, from the time I was very young, you received a fair amount of pressure to put me on SSRIs or Ritalin or some type of medication, and you never did. And this is like a combination of the things that you did with food and diet that are amazing, and also harkens back to our conversation about Muhammad Ali, where it's easy to say in hindsight that somebody was right. But at the time, how did you possibly, I mean, I went to one school till fourth grade, got kicked out, went to school for fifth and sixth, got kicked out, went to school for seventh, got kicked out, went to school for eighth, got kicked out. What, you know what I mean? Like,
I know I was there. Um, I knew that that was not the answer for the issues that you were dealing with. I knew that. Now I know that there are people who definitely need medication. You were not one of them. And they threatened me that they would take me to court and basically have me lose the ability to make those decisions, and you would become a ward of the state. I said, well, bring it on. You know, if that's really what you feel you need to do with him, but I don't think that that's going to help him. It's going to make him into a zombie. It's going to just mask what's really happening inside. And you had a lot of stuff you were dealing with, and that's it. You know, you weren't a bad person. You know, you were, unfortunately for them, you were very bright, you know, so it complicated stuff. It's not like he's failing his work. But no, I knew that. That I knew. That was a baseline that I knew. No way. And I've seen kids at that era too. Give them Ritalin, give them Ritalin. You know, that was what they wanted to give. And I've seen those kids, they go from having some life in them to being little zombies. Uh-uh. Nope. So I feel like I did for you, like I always look at it like I hope someone would do that for me. If I was in a similar situation, I would hope someone would step up and go, no, you know, like, you know, as we get older, there's that healthcare proxy thing. And you got to hope that the person, like, well, Shabazz and I are each other's healthcare proxy. But what happens if we both die at the same time? You got to hope that you have people surrounding you that will take that step and go, no, you're not going to put her on that, or I want you to try whatever, you know. Um, that's in, so as a kid, you have no, you just have no agency. You have no voice in what's happening to you. So I felt like I did the best I could do. That was it.
yeah,
All my life I've been fighting. You know that.
I do.
Yep. All my life. It doesn't matter, you know, I'm dealing with clients right now that are trying to dump contaminated crap at my compost site. Big name. I don't even want to say it. And it's like, you know, it's not my problem. You know why it's not my problem? Is because I'm not letting you dump it. You have to do what's right. You know, you're trying to greenwash. You want to get rid of this stuff at our compost facility, but I'm not, I'm not taking that. You know, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, that's why I said to you before, I have to write this response.
Yeah,
And I just know that in certain things in life, and I think you have this, you have that part of you. You have to stay, I don't mean be inflexible and don't close your mind to learning, but at certain points you have to stay really centered on what you know has to happen.
yeah.
That's how you know,
I think very much one of the things that I got from you was both an open mind and a defined sense of what's right and wrong, and the willingness to be like, fuck them. Like,
yeah,
if, yeah.
yeah. You know, Jerry Benowitz, I don't know if you remember him,
Oh, I
the
do.
therapist. I love him. When I brought you there after your father died, I said, Jerry, I don't know what's going on. You gotta, you know, and I never forget, like after he talked to you a few times, and I went in during the lunch hour, and I said, so I'm not asking you to tell me things that he would want, not, you know, he goes, he's very hurt and he's mad. So what do you want? I was like, yeah. It was he said, that's all. That's all it is. He has a pain that is too big to talk about. And it like clicked. I said, this guy is right. You know, me asking him, oh, get him to do this and get him to do that and see if he'll talk. He goes, it's not like that. Doesn't work that way. So that was, that's hard as a parent, but it's reality. I mean, we have to kind of just be there to have our arm around our kid, but we can't push them. That was a hard lesson for me. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry if bringing that up was difficult. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. Yeah, I remember Jerry.
Yeah, he was great. He was
Yeah.
really great. He had, and I just divert for one second, he had the funniest clients. He told me one time, because once you go in therapy for a while, you don't really need it all the time. And so I would go there on a lunch hour and we would just sit and shoot the breeze. And he told me, he goes, yeah, I had this one client, she can't eat in front of anyone. She's self-conscious, as long as she had bad teeth. He goes, no, no, she just, and he said, so she brings lunch. And for him too, she'll bring lunch and they sit and eat. That's the session.
That's
I
the
said, so she
therapy.
buys lunch and she pays you for a session. He goes, yeah. So it sounds like a good deal. Isn't that funny?
That's great.
Yeah. He had a lot of funny stories like that. I enjoyed him. I didn't need him after a while. I just kind of learned, how to do that critical thinking myself. But he
Hmm.
was there when I needed him. So
Yeah, that was a rough time.
yeah. Yes, it
Yep.
was.
I would say that's not something I dealt with until I was much older,
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
just a few years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think that obviously, I think Sabrina, her presence, and I mean like that presence of her safety was big. And I think to her crazy credit, I got to give Holly her due because I think her in
Mm.
being, really reaching out and really like connecting with you is what, that I think that was a big part of it. And I'm really glad of that. I have this thing in my head that I would like to go down and see where we entered his ashes. I don't know if I could find it. It was down in Spring Valley. It was, but it was such a beautiful, beautiful cemetery. And it was just such the craziest time with Uncle Eddie and I. I don't remember who else was there. I think it was just Uncle Eddie and I. Because all the ceremony stuff was been done, and then a few days later they gave us the ashes. And
Yeah.
we had to get a health permit to open up his mother's grave to enter them. And they opened up the wrong grave. So we're,
What?
we're standing there and I go, Eddie, I and he goes, I see it, I see it. I go, well, I don't know, what should we do? So he goes, hang on, hang on. He goes over to the graveyard guy and like, I don't know what they said, but I can see them talking and pointing. And he comes back. He said, well, the guy said we could finish up our prayers or whatever, our dedication, and then he'll do it after we all leave. So we're driving home, real quiet, me and Eddie. I go, so what do you think the chance is that he's going to open up the other grave? He goes, zero, just zero. And I said, you know what? Bruce got the last laugh, man. I said, he really got like, hey guys, watch this, Yeah, that was
What
funny.
what a good story.
It is. It really is. Because what they do is they open up, how like almost like a post hole digger, they don't open up the whole thing. They open it up enough where you could pour
Okay.
ashes down,
Yep.
I mean, it goes right down to wherever the tomb is, whatever. I don't know a lot about graveyards, but I said, I got a funny feeling about this. And he goes, he won't care. And I said, no, he won't. And he won't. He wouldn't. So yeah, that's something.
It's funny because we've been talking about like the differences in how we approach food and how our family is different than most, and there's a lot of positive aspects of that. There's also when we go to Sabrina's family for a holiday dinner, it's like 9 hours.
That
You know
was
what
good.
I'm
Well, you
saying?
know what? That's how Shabazz's family used to be too. And I'm like, we are efficient. We don't,
Like,
drag this shit
yeah.
out.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna get in. Hey, what's up? We're gonna watch a little TV. We're gonna eat some food. We're gonna light the candles if that's a thing.
We're gonna watch
Everybody
some
gets
more TV while we get the desserts on the main
right.
game.
Yep,
Yeah, you're right. You're
yep.
right.
And then what? All right, 5:15. We're good. Let's
Yeah.
wrap this
Gotta
up.
go. Yeah,
Yeah. And I
that's a good
never
one. That
yeah.
dragging it out stuff. Oh,
Oh, for the love of God. Yeah,
yeah,
it's tough.
yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, Shabaz's family was really big on that, really big. And that's just the way it is. It's a cultural thing, it's a family
Yeah.
system of how it works. You're not changing it. I'm going to tell you right now, take your own car, go home when you get tired.
We drive separate.
Yeah, because it
Yep.
really is, for me, it's grueling. And then when we used to, when we lived in Beacon, that big house there, whoa,
Yeah.
everything.
Oh my God. Because they're at your house now.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh,
And so it was like, oh my God. And they would like come in, I'd be in the kitchen, like trying to hide, just like, I need space, I need quiet. Don't, and they would come in, they'd be like, with the cup, is any more of that coffee left? Oh, oh, it was good. But you know what? All joking aside, I miss that time now because everyone's dispersed, Mariah and Chris are living down in North.
oh.
Say hi to Blair.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Have fun, you guys.
All right. I'll talk to you
Oh,
later.
Okay.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye. You just tell me that Josh's mother, Mary, is in the hospital with a heart attack. It's like,
no kidding.
oh, she's like an old buzzard, though. She's gonna live forever. It's true. It's true. She's like smoking the cigarettes, whatever. But anyway, where we left off, we just tie that one up, was that whole thing about different families and our customs of getting together. And in our family, it was this massive efficiency of this is mostly driven by grandma. I mean, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And it was this like, come on in, have dinner, clean up the table, put out dessert. Okay, everybody go. That's how they did it. And yet I'm with someone whose family, it's like hours to do it.
Hours.
Hours. I mean, we
Hours.
have a meal that isn't 4 hours at least. And that's like a quickie. So
Yeah.
now, as time has changed, and we're not in that big house in Beacon, and as I was saying, Mariah and Chris are down in North Carolina, Blair's in Brooklyn, those kids are getting older, to be honest. So it's just harder to bring a group of people together. At least it seems that way for us. I mean, we still get together, but not that much, not like we used to. So honestly, though, do I really miss that? No. That,
No.
I had to think about that, like that whole thing of just sitting around in a hot, stuffy house, there you go. Boy, you are your mother's son.
Yeah, no, I really am.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin is though, is I do remember going up to like Nick and Lydia's
Oh, yeah.
in the country, and it's funny because you brought up coffee. Like, yeah, we'd sit around, we'd have dinner and then we'd sit around and drink coffee for hours and talk. And this is again a callback to like the family you choose,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
how much do I actually have in common, with my biological family, particularly extended family, but then you get the right group of people together, and yeah, it can be, that
What?
3, 4, 5 hours.
Remember Goldie, the taxi
Yeah.
driver Goldie, who would just,
Yeah.
he would just, And Lydia always would say, she'd say, okay, to me and Blair and Maggie. She'd go, I'm gonna put Goldie here, and you're gonna sit on the same side of the table as Goldie. So that who's ever sitting across from him, because he chews with his mouth open and he talks. And I'd be, oh, thank you, Lydia. Thank you so much. I swear she had like a plan. She goes, no, I wouldn't do that to you. I won't make you sit across from him. So yeah. Yeah, those are some good times. And I think you're right about the family you choose is like, and I think that there's a piece of this that comes back around too, that you and I have that connection. We can get on the phone like this, like it's nothing. And we can't stop talking. And it's fine, like, look, I gotta go, I gotta work, or I got, so it's Blair and I have that, you and I have that. I don't feel like I really have that with my siblings. I think that because I've always been a little bit to the far left of whatever their belief systems have been. I mean, I think they love me, I love them. It's not but I don't think that I have that connectedness. Like when Josh got the brain aneurysm just recently, that like they didn't really call to see. Like I told them what happened, and then they didn't call to check up and see how he was. And I was like, that kind of hurts a little. So you can leave that out of this podcast. Come on. Help me.
I think that some of the difference between you and the rest of your immediate family, my aunts and uncles, can also be boiled down to religion, that strict adherence. And it's interesting because you are and always have been very spiritual. You know what I mean? You're not, I would never describe you as an atheist by any stretch of the imagination, but you're also not somebody that's like, all right, let's go. It's, Sunday morning, we're all heading to church. Yeah, you approached.
I was going to say, I think that there's this religious formula that is it's like an easy out. And by that I mean when something happens, it's like, oh, thoughts and prayers, and it's like a Hallmark card instead of what could I do that would help you at this time? Like those kinds of questions, And I realize like in some ways they don't even want that from me. Like when Uncle Ralph just recently had his fall off the ladder, I mean, it was hurt bad. And they only called me after the fact. And then when he had to go back in for surgery, I said, let me know. I said, because he was going to be right in Poughkeepsie. I said, I'm just right across the bridge. I'll just go sit with you and sit and wait till he comes out of surgery. I didn't find out till 2 days later. So like that connectedness that I have with some friends, like I have friends who have had medical stuff happen, and I say, let me know. I'd be honored to like sit through that with you. And they let me know. And I do, so it's because my response is not like programmed, like thoughts and prayers,
Yeah, it is interesting because oftentimes something will happen to a friend or a family member, and I almost wish that I had that silly platitude to fall back on.
Right. Yep.
Because to not have it now means that we have to say something of substance. How exhausting,
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and there is a certain weight to that phrase, you're in my prayers. And I don't say it because it would be bullshit, because I'm not praying, and I do often wish that I'm thinking of you. I'm sending you good energy. Like I wish there was, something that equated that people understood that no, I really do care. I just ain't praying to anybody about it.
I think just what you said though, like I really do care. I don't know if there's anything more I can say than that. I mean, that's really what people, that to me is more strengthening than thoughts and prayers, because it's just too, it's trite, and even if you come from that belief system, try speaking from that then. When I pray, I feel like it's helping, so I'm going to pray for you. That would mean a lot to me.
Hmm.
But that formula answer doesn't mean a lot to me. And it never has. Any of that kind of stuff has always been like, I get where people are coming from, and I don't roll my eyes at it, but I get it, like it hits me like a thud, like, okay, yep. Like I get it. So, because I find sometimes with you being so far away that I don't ever feel like I have to say thoughts and prayers. I mean, I can say to you, hey, how is Sabrina feeling? I know what you guys are going through. How are you feeling? And it's not trite, and I know it's not. So,
Well, I know it's not trite because almost without exception, it's followed by a conversation. I have on my phone probably 15 voicemails from you that go back probably, I think the first one is almost 10 years ago.
oh my gosh.
And it's weird too, because all of them are about 29 to 31 seconds. And they're all basically the same thing. They're all, hey, nothing important. I was just driving, or I was just at the site and I was thinking about you. And it's funny because it's the much less generic form of like thoughts and prayers.
Yep.
It's hey, I was thinking about you, and you'll usually real quick mention what you were thinking about. But this is what happens all the time, like when you call me or I call you, like, hey, so I'm thinking. That's kind of was the genesis for this conversation. Is yeah. So I agree with you 100% that that means so much more than a generic platitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on that topic of both religion and diet, it's something else that I've always found to be amazing about you that isn't something that a lot of people do, is both of those are fantastic examples of something that you've never pushed. And for example, and some of it is me not being very perceptive or attentive, but I swear to God, it was like maybe 10 years ago. So I'm, late 30s, early 40s. And I think I had come home, or I was talking to Blair about something. And I was like, so how long has mom been a vegetarian?
What she
And
said.
Blair was like, what are you, a fucking idiot? Mom's been a vegetarian her entire life. And it blew my mind because I remember, and I guess what blew my mind, my expectation was, how do you know if somebody's a vegetarian? Wait 5 minutes, they'll tell you, and that was never you. And I remember growing up as a child, we had hamburgers and we had veal cutlet and we had,
Yeah.
so from that perspective, never pushed. We never, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we never went to church. Like outside
So.
of like marrying
Yeah.
and burying, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I was like, no, I never had a belief in organized ceremonial religion, going to mass. And I certainly know it, because I learned it so young. And I think I was 12 years old when I told grandma and grandpa, I'm not going to church anymore. And they were, whoa, whoa. And they find, like I guess I was so steadfast when I had something like that. And they just finally back right off. She said, well, we really don't want to force you to go sit in a church. I
that does not sound like your mother.
know it. but they didn't fight me. I mean, they were at first like, that's not right, blah, blah, blah. You're not old enough to make that choice. I said, I think I am. I mean, I seriously would sit in a church when they would make me go, and my head would be out that window thinking about a million different things. It was never in that church. So I just, yeah, so you're right. I never forced you kids, which was not exactly well looked upon in an Italian family,
Yeah.
but I used to try to explain to grandma and grandpa, because grandpa was a divorced man. And when grandma married him, she was not allowed to receive communion at church, all that stuff. She could go to church, but she could only go as an observer. And I remember saying to them, like, I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, you guys don't seem like any horrible religious criminals, but you're not welcome in part of this thing, So I think that kind of like gave him a little like tug. So um they left me alone, and they didn't bother me about getting you guys baptized. They never bothered me about that.
That
Did it bother
is
you?
you. Religion has become far less of a thing in society nowadays.
I
Um,
agree.
I still get, I would argue the strongest reaction, I get a stronger reaction to not having been baptized than I do to my admission that I'm an agnostic atheist. People are more willing, people are more
Yeah,
willing to accept that, like, well, he was at least baptized as a child.
yeah.
And
Well, how did they react to that? What do you think?
I think the reaction is that if I was baptized as a child, but ultimately chose an erroneous path, at least my soul would be protected. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The fact that I wasn't baptized just means that I'm fucked.
You know what it says? Like, I don't know about all the religions, but I know that in the Catholic religion, if you're not baptized, when you die, you go to limbo. And in limbo, you just never see God. Well, all right. So I'm like, come on. I mean, see, that was the stuff that even as a young person, I was like, this is like supposedly this benevolent, kind, loving force of life. And you're going to make a person never see, and I guess if I translate what did God mean, you're never going to see joy and happiness and love in the
Yep.
afterlife. And then I don't know about you. I don't even know if there is an afterlife. I don't know. I have no clue as what happens after we die. I really don't. I don't claim any knowledge. I don't know if you have any belief of what happens. Yeah,
No, it's why I'm pretty particular about using the term agnostic atheist. I do believe that when there are two differing opinions, the truth does not necessarily lie in the middle. I think that the chances of there being an omnipotent being that created mankind and everything
yeah,
and watches us when we do dumb shit and judges us for it, I think that the chances of that being true are far less than simple evolution, the rise and perpetuation simply of energy. Um, I do think, and not that I'm involved in it, but I've circled around it for quite a bit of my life. The way that Alcoholics Anonymous approaches the concept of a higher power. They did a good job when they first formed, being like, well, we're going to get a lot of people that done some really rough shit and probably don't believe in God. So the way that Alcoholics Anonymous defines it is simply a power greater than myself.
yep.
And
And
I've
that's how I
always
too.
I,
Yeah,
I've always thought that was great. The simple sheer mass of humanity and the energy that is life. Like that,
Yeah.
that's a power greater than me. So yeah, I don't believe it's funny. What's amazing to me is how similar our belief system is. And boy, did you again, I had no idea what your religious affiliation was or wasn't. I didn't know that you were a vegetarian for 35 years, and a lot of that was because of, and again, something that just makes you so unbelievably singular is you didn't push any of that shit. You spent my childhood and young adulthood teaching me how to think, not what to think. Whew, that's just amazing.
Well, I have a feeling you're going to do the same. I do. I have a feeling that you're going to do the same with your child or children or however this goes forward. You guys could always adopt too, down the road, if this doesn't, I mean, raising a person is, it's really a privilege. It's something you have to really want. And that was the thing with both you and Blair. We really wanted you, it was like not an accident. It wasn't like, whoa, I mean, we got married. I was 18, 19. I had you when I was 21. So it wasn't like, oops, um, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Like teach a person how to think, how to learn. I work with a lot of students all the time. And a lot of them, I work with Vassar students, high end, I work with Marist students. That's pretty high end too. And then I
Yeah.
work with the SUNY students, the state college. And they're all like the SUNY kids in particular, like, yeah, we know we're losers. We know, And I said, I work for a company. And when I worked for the telephone company, I would interview people who were coming in for jobs. And what they would do is they would screen them and then they would send them to the different departments and each person would have 10 minutes to talk to them. And what mattered to me was not what college you went to and certainly not what grade you got. I never looked at a transcript ever. I said, what mattered to me is that whether you went to a community college or a SUNY or an Ivy League, didn't matter. The point was you completed a task, you graduated. That's really, the crux of how we should live our life is complete the process. And so I always tell those students that I'm telling you, 10 years down the road, nobody's going to care whether you got an A or an A minus or a B or whatever. No one's going to care.
Yep. Or even what school you went to. It'll
Oh,
be about, particularly in today's day and age where people's attention spans, it's about what have you done lately?
yeah.
How good are you at your particular
Yep.
job? And funny, that's another thing that I got from you. You told me real young, I don't even know if you remember it, but if you're gonna do something, do it right.
Yeah.
Like your name is on that shit.
Yeah.
And to this day, I do. If I'm gonna do something, might as well do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you think about, like, for me, I came from that position of I worked for at the time, a big corporation. I had to dress up every day with high heels and work because those were the days where you didn't go to work in pants. I mean, it was really and now my profession, I mean, yesterday I spent most of the day in a big Caterpillar loader. You know, it's just like my perception of my sense of success and moving forward and all that is how well I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And that's what it's about. And like working with these students, I just love it, because I try to give them that same sense, like whatever you're working on, put everything in it. Don't half-ass it.
Yep.
So yeah, you took a lot of lessons that we learned together and you've taken them further. And that's something I'm really proud to see that. I really am.
That's nice to hear.
Is
Yeah,
it?
I had good role models.
How about some of the
Really.
books? How about the books we read? You know,
Yeah.
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 You know,
Well, I mean, another great example, it wasn't weird to me growing up reading all the time, everything, as much as I could, you know. That was, and part of the reason that that wasn't weird is the house that I grew up in had books everywhere.
yeah,
And, quite a bit of your free time was spent reading.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah, that
we had,
was
like I said, we had a good unit, that family of you and me and Blair. And then the times we spent down in the city, in the village and all that, that was, catching that football in Washington Square Park and the hot dog man. I mean, the whole thing was
George.
George. I didn't even remember his name,
Yeah,
but
I still remember his name.
Blair always says, she goes, what parents would let their kids walk from Christopher Street all the way up to Square Park?
Okay.
There was like 4 ODs a day in that park,
Yeah. And what was that? Was that 20 blocks? I mean,
something like that. Yeah, it was a
yeah.
good walk. I've always been a walker. I've always thought that was a character building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. But it was like you guys had a real sense of yourselves. So you would watch out for Blair. Nobody was going to mess with you. Even as a kid, you had a real sense of your own presence in the world. It was nice. Yeah. I used to love going to that park. Jim would throw you that football so far and you would whoop, jump up and pull it down. It was great. Remember that?
I
Yeah, I
do.
guess you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Some really good
Yeah.
memories. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the park, they always had those big Morgan horses that the police were on.
Yeah.
I love them. I like those horses. Do you remember before we go, the one where the horse picked up your bike with you by the handlebar, like just grabbed it with his mouth? And the cop said, put it down, and he put it back down. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Like we were right next to them. We were all watching something. Yeah, they always had something going on there.
Yeah, all the street performers. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's where I saw that one crazy I can't think, John Luke something. John. He's a famous
Leguizamo? Yeah, John
what?
Leguizamo.
Yes, him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I saw him debut as, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
that was funny. And I remember when he hit big, I thought, wow, I knew him when, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. When he used to literally perform in Washington Square Park.
Yeah. You know what, who else I really like is I know you're gonna go, oh, come on, but I really like Spike Lee, and I'm gonna tell you why. He is an unembarrassed, authentic Knicks fan. I mean, oh my God. I mean, he coaches them from the sideline like
Yeah.
he's like getting paid for it. You know what? You don't find many people like that. So
Yeah. And he's been like that long before he was
forever.
famous. Yeah.
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 Oh yeah. Long, long before. Well, he grew up in Brooklyn, so he was at the Garden all his life.
Right.
Yeah, that was funny. That was so there's another semi-hero. I wouldn't call him a hero. I just find him interesting.
I would
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
Well, I think we should wrap this up if
Okay.
you're ready.
Yeah. Yep. That's great.
Next time maybe we'll talk more about books that we love.
I would love that.
Yeah. Because I know
Yeah.
you love reading. I love reading. I have over my age now have discovered some nice authors that I kind of like that you might like.
Okay.
I'm not into serious reading,
You know what? With some very small notable exceptions, particularly when I was exploring kind of the religion aspect of things and was looking
Mhm.
for more information or a different vantage point, and some very particular things politically. No, I've always reading has been my escape.
Yes.
Yep.
Like Stranger in a Strange Land. You
It's
just go
funny.
a whole
It's
different world, right?
it yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's I've gotten that book in more than one short film that we've done. Yeah.
Have you really?
Oh
I think I
yeah.
saw the one. I think I saw the
Yep.
one. Yeah.
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 Anytime I can, I'm a big Easter egg guy. I try and get a Yankee hat in any film that I make. But
That's
yeah,
good.
anytime there's an opportunity for a book, it's Stranger in a Strange Land. The film we just did, I got Gone with the Wind, a copy of that and that was just more of a commentary on book banning seems to be, coming back. So, Gone with the Wind is always a book that just blows my mind that it would be banned. And I understand that some of the subject matter, if not viewed within the context of the time that it was written, can be problematic. But I think that that's massively important that any type of literature or history or the recording of it, be dealt with, through the prism of when it happened. And
I
it's just, I
agree.
don't know. Sabrina's a massive fan of Gone with the Wind. She has several copies. She reads it a couple times a year. And yeah, it's one of the ones that has always gotten under my skin about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
I didn't know it was one on the banned book list. I didn't know
yeah,
that. Man.
ridiculous. But
All right. Well, I can't wait to see this
yeah,
in
yeah,
its
this will be
version,
this will be fun. I
Yeah,
really appreciate you taking the time. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
I
And
know that.
some of this has been, I talk about you a lot. I always have. So you're like, I've been out here for almost 20 years. And so you're like some mythical creature to a lot of so
I
it's
still
gonna
remember when your friends met us at your wedding. They're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
they're like, Papagni, you got like a good looking family and your mother's hot or something. I was like,
Ah,
oh, God.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. They were funny. They were really funny.
Yeah. So from the perspective of people that don't know either one of us, this has been a very interesting conversation.
Yes.
From the perspective of people that know me and not you, interesting. Maybe know you and not me, interesting. So I very much appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime. I love you.
I love you too much.
I know.
All right.
I'm signing off.